What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some very spicy battles submitted to the channel by Gyringus, who's running 3 shadow Pokemon that gain access to new moves this season, with Salamence in the lead running Fly, which is now its cheapest charge move that it has access to, which is a significant improvement, but Shadow Salamence is still very difficult to use, and probably needs another move update with either Breaking Swipe or at the very least Dragon Claw to make it viable. Then they've got Shadow Typhlosion, which I'm sure you've probably seen featured on basically every other PvP channel by now, and finally Ursaring, which might be probably the only Pokemon that actually benefits from gaining access to Swift this season, as Swift isn't a particularly good move, but it is now Ursaring's cheapest energy charge move, and therefore in matchups where you can't quite farm down a Pokemon, you can just go for a Swift instead of double debuffing your defense by throwing a close combat. Now there was a lot of speculation as to whether Swift would be a 35 or a 40 energy charge move, and at 35 energy it would have actually been pretty solid. It would have been a Weather Ball clone, so still not quite as good as Body Slam, but pretty close to it. But now unfortunately it is a clone of the Elemental Punches, and actually another normal type move in Stomp, which kind of tells you just how viable it's going to be, because I can't think of a single Pokemon that runs Stomp in the current Great League meta. So yeah, pretty underwhelming, but like I said, it is still a slight improvement for Ursaring. Now, when I received this submission, I was very excited to check out the battles, and Gyringus had over 40 minutes of gameplay, but when I actually watched the battles, they only managed 4 wins out of a total 20 battles that were submitted. Now don't get me wrong, this is a very hard team to pilot, but you kind of expect people to just submit the best battles they had with a team, including a lot more than 4 wins as well as some close losses. Now we know teams like this, they're not going to help to climb elo or get loads of wins, but what we do expect from teams like this is entertaining battles, which you don't really get if 80% of those battles are losses, and most of these battles as well weren't even remotely close either, so a very strange submission, but unfortunately I have wasted all my TMs trying to get Thunder Punch on Lucario with no success so far, so I don't actually have any other content to bring you guys at the moment. So what we're going to do is watch through some of these battles, and instead of just criticizing every bad play, I'm going to try to suggest things that this battler could have done differently that maybe could have turned some of these losses into wins. So yeah, going to be a bit of a different video for this channel, but anyways, with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What do you think is the most underrated skill that a lot of trainers just don't bother learning in the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle is Shadow Salamence into a Talonflame. So this is a positive matchup, and I'm assuming in the one shield scenario, if the opponent does throw straight away, which they do, we can just shield and then go for a full Dragon Tail farm down. We don't need to throw a charge move, and we don't throw there. So I really like how we played that lead matchup. We come out with a ton of loaded energy, and the opponent comes in with Umbreon. So we're full sending a Draco Meteor. Very risky, and the opponent does end up shielding. So I feel like, I guess of all the Pokemon that might not respect the damage from a Shadow Salamence, Umbreon is probably one of the very few Pokemon that might do that, but unfortunately it was a risk that didn't pay off, and I think we would have just been much better to go for the Fly, but we are going to see a lot of lag here. Not really sure what's going on. The opponent does eventually get off a charge move. We're going to no shield here. Foul play, not going to do too much damage. It looks like the opponent is still lagging here. I'm not really sure if we've stopped attacking to allow them to get back into the game, and if that is the case, then respect to Gyringus there, as they don't need to do that. They could have very easily just fast moved farm them down at that point, and they come in with a Credilli, so I think this should be game over. Blast Burn is going to do huge damage. We take out Credilli there, and we're able to take that game. So a bit of a strange first game, but into next battle, we see Bastiodon in the lead. So of course, awful core breaker to the team. We're going to swap into Typhlosion. I don't mind this, as it does have a slightly better matchup than the Salamence. Building up to back-to-back Thunder Punches or a potential Solar Beam. We actually grab a shield there, but we need much better awareness there to realize we are not making it to the Blast Burn, and instead just throwing a second Thunder Punch, because what that would allow us to do is also not only get off a little bit of chip damage up against the Bastiodon, but also kill some of the time on that switch clock there, because then after throwing a charge move with the Ursaring, we could have actually swapped out there, preserving some of the health on the Ursaring. But either way, I don't think it really matters in this scenario, as the opponent can come in with the Bastiodon. There's nothing we can do to flip this other than maybe running Hydro Pump, but we're not running Hydro Pump, so Draco Meteor will be coming through. It does a lot of damage there for resisted damage, but obviously Bastiodon can tank that, and we do lose that game. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Lantern in the lead. So they are running Spark still. So Spark, of course, did get a nerf this season. They're just going to go straight for a Surf, so we can no shield, and we will no shield. And we're going to bank the energy there on our Shadow Salamence, as of course a Fly is resisted. We come in with the Ursa Ring. We do overfarm here, and I like this play. And this will actually allow us to grab a shield from the opponent. Of course, Swift and Close Combat are resisted. We come in straight away. We don't really wait out the Switch Clock. And another mistake that we make here is not throwing the charge straight away. We had that Fly banked, but instead we unnecessarily use a shield because we didn't throw the move straight away, and that was so costly because they come in with a Trevenant. We can just come in with the Typhlosion and go for a full Incinerate farm down here, and if we had both shields in play, we could have shielded up the Shadow Ball, then shielding up a Surf from the Lantern, and it would have been a pretty comfortable win for us in the end game. But unfortunately, because we used a shield on our Salamence, they can go for a Surf, taking out the Typhlosion, and we do end up losing that game. But into the next battle, Whimsicott in the lead, so not ideal for us in the slightest. Gonna say swap into Ursa Ring, and this is where Swift is actually going to be pretty useful for us, as it is a neutral charge move to throw that does also cost not an awful lot of energy, so quite nice for us. We're also able to make it to a second Swift. Looks like the opponent is committing to a full Incinerate farm down, so certainly not ideal for us. At this point, I would probably just sacrifice the Salamence, but we're going to use a shield here. The opponent baits with a Flame Charge, definitely not ideal, and at this point, we probably do have to double shield. We've already used one shield. They go for the Fly there. That's fine with us. We're going to come out with our own Fly, and I think we can overfarm in this matchup if the opponent comes back in with the Whimsicott, which they do. I don't think we need to throw straight away here, but Fly will be taking out the Whimsicott, and overfarming would have actually been very helpful for us. Here, we need to make a catch or do something. We can't allow them to throw a charge move before we get off any damage at all, because unfortunately, we're not making it to a Blast Burn, and Thunder Punch, yes, it is neutral damage, but it just won't quite be enough damage to get the KO. And the opponent makes it to another Surf, and of course super effective damage up against the Typhlosion. Surf will be taking us out, and we do end up losing that game. So two things there, we could have overfarmed with the Salamence up against that Whimsicott, because of course we know Seed Bomb or Grass Knot, whichever they were throwing, or whichever they were running there, is going to be double resisted, so could have farmed all the way to the point where they got to a Moonblast there before throwing a charge move, and also we could have definitely just tried to make a catch there, preserve some of the health, or at the very least thrown the Fly into the Lantern. But either way, the opponent's going to come in with a Victory Bell. We go for the Swift. That does some decent damage. Honestly, if they were a Shadow Victory Bell, we probably could have farmed them down there. But at this point, we're going to come in with the Salamence. And again, not throwing the charge move. I think this time it makes a little bit more sense, as of course, we don't necessarily want to go for that Fly when they're so low, but we go for the Draco Meteor. We one-shot the Lantern. Insane damage. The opponent did not respect the damage there. And at this point, we might actually flip this matchup on its head just from landing that Draco Meteor. So sometimes the risk does pay off, although the opponent makes it to a last-second charge move here. The opponent goes for a Dark Pulse, but we hang on. We get the farm down, and we're able to take that game. So this time, going for that Draco did pay off for us. So you can see it is very much a high risk, high reward strategy, going for that nuke move. But anyways, into the next battle, we're going to see Mantine in the lead. We didn't need to shield that, but Salamence is incredibly glassy, so that by the time they make it to a second Aerial Ace, honestly, it probably would KO. We're going to swap into Ursa Ring, and once again, unfortunately, baiting out a Annihilate here, but once again we do overfarm. This time the opponent does respect the damage there. Unfortunately, that is double resisted. I think we could have made it to a play rough if we were running it, so I do like that play in overfarming. At this point, we are just going to sacrifice the Salamence. They full send a Shadow Ball, and as a result, we get a huge farm down, which is very nice for us. They come back in with the Mantine. I don't mind this play overfarming here, as of course, they're going to go for a Water Pulse. They come in with the Gligar, and if we do land this Blast Burn, we might be able to fast move farther down, and we should have been able to get the farm down there, but unfortunately the opponent does get the damage registration error there. They're able to make it to an Aerial Ace. Not a lot we did wrong in that battle, in all honesty. Unfortunately, the team is just a pretty bad one, and we do end up losing there. But into the next game, we see Double in the lead. So of course, we are going to be resisting double kicks. We can tank a Body Slam. I say tank, that does so much damage there, but we do live it, and we're able to make it to a Fly. So there you can see, if we didn't have Fly, we actually wouldn't have even made it to a Draco Meteor at that point, but we take out the double, but they come in with their Lantern. So not ideal for us. We're going to come in with the Shadow Ursa Ring, of course. Don't want to come in with the Typhlosion, and we're going to go for a Swift straight away. Swift is going to grab a shield there. We throw on the CMB tie. We're definitely going to respect the damage here as they go for a Surf, which is a bit unfortunate. as this will allow them to make it to a second Surf. I feel like we have to no shield here, and Surf unfortunately takes us out. So honestly, I wouldn't have played that any differently there. And you can see we are over farming. Again, I don't think Thunder Punch would KO from this range, so I don't mind the over farm here. I personally would have farmed to 100 energy at this point, because we know, of course, if the opponent does shield that, we could make it to another Thunder Punch anyways, and they have a Talonflame in the back, so Thunder Punch will be coming through. It does get shielded, we make it to a last second Thunder Punch, and Thunder Punch is super effective, but unfortunately it won't KO from this range, and the opponent will KO with basically anything they throw here. Flame Charge or Fly would get the job done, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But into the next battle, we see Defense from Deoxys in the lead, so this isn't too bad for us. We are resisting the counter, and counter is non-stab. The opponent going to throw after 7, so very good timing here. The opponent goes for a Psycho Boost, and they're going to swap into Licky Tongue. So once again, it looks like we are going straight for the Draco Meteor. High risk, high reward, and unfortunately, we don't get rewarded there, as the opponent does end up shielding. So it looks like we're trying to throw the Draco Meteor on a lot of bulky Pokemon. We could just go for the Fly there, and honestly, if we land the Fly, we can probably just come in with Typhlosion and farm them down, or if we don't land the Fly, I personally would have swapped into Ursaring there, just because of course we do double resist the lick damage, and whilst yes they also resist the Shadow Claws, a close combat probably one-shots them there, so with a shield advantage that would have been a pretty decent position for us to be in. But anyways, we are going to shield the Psycho Boost, and the opponent has a Wigglytuff in the back, so definitely if we came in with the Ursaring and then had our Typhlosion aligned to the Wigglytuff, we'd be in a much better position. But unfortunately at this point this will be game over. Swift not going to do much damage there. They can Charm, farm down the Salamence, Charm, farm down the Ursaring, and we do end up losing that game. So into the next battle, we see Shadow Dragonette in the lead. So of course, we expect the opponent to deal more damage with their fast move, but we're going to swap out there. I personally would have stayed in for a little bit longer than that. It looks like we are lagging a bit as well, which is not ideal, but we're going to go for a Swift. Swift grabs a shield, but they get a huge farm down. As well, I'm not really sure which Pokemon we should be coming in with here. We come in with the Typhlosion. I don't think this is right, because the opponent can grab both shields from us, although I suppose by the time we do farm them down, we're going to come out with a Blast Burn loaded, so not the end of the world, but also not an optimal position to be in. They're going to have a Bastiodon in the back anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This was game over before it even started. Blast Burn grabs a shield, we swap at the same time, and again a Wigglytuff in the back, so yeah, not a lot, well, basically nothing we could have done in that battle anyways, but that's just how some battles go. Into next game, we see Vigoroth in the lead. So once again, resisting the counter damage. Not too bad, but what is a bit bad is the weak connection there. It looks like it hasn't really affected us so far, though. We're going to go straight for the Fly. Fly grabs the shield, and at this point, I probably would just no shield, because they're going to make it to back-to-back Body Slams before we make it to the next charge move. We are very slow to swap out there, though. We come in with the Typhlosion, and we are going to overfarm here, and we're going to throw just as they're reaching a charge move. So very good timing here. Thunder Punch will be shielded, and it looks like that was a CMP tie, but we might have accidentally gone into a full CMP tie there, and oh, unfortunately we have done. So that is actually just an error with the game. It's not actually the fault of this trainer, but a bit unnecessary to go for the Thunder Punch there. At that point, I probably would have just gone for the full farm down, but now we're going to go for a Thunder Punch here. Thunder Punch takes out the Vigoroth, and they've got a Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So this is winnable, but we're going to need to make a catch here, as of course, an Earthquake is probably going to one-shot us, so we are going to swap into our Salamence. The opponent is going to fire off a charge move here. The opponent goes for a Rock Slide, so they didn't actually go for the Earthquake there, but it doesn't really matter. Close combat will be coming through, taking out the Stunfisk, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Shadow Salamence into Mantine. So we've seen already that in the first time we played up against a Mantine, we did shield the first move. They're going to swap into Steelix, and once again, a little bit slow to swap out there. But we come in with the Shadow Typhlosion. We are going to no-shield the first move here, so they go for a Psychic Fangs, dropping our defense, and we're going to overfarm, and I don't agree with this whatsoever. We could have thrown the charge move straight away, and either just taken them out there or grabbed a shield, and now we're going to throw on alignment here. I feel like either we just commit to the full farm down, or we throw a move, and once again, poor awareness there, not realizing that we're not making it to a Blast Burn, so instead should have just gone for the Thunder Punch. Of course, Thunder Punch is double resisted, but if the opponent maybe hasn't been keeping track of our energy, they might have double shielded there just to maintain alignment, which would have been very nice for us. But as a result, we go for the charge move there, and the opponent makes a very nice catch, catching a double resisted Fly onto their Bastiodon. At this point, this is certainly game over. Yes, of course, we can come in with the Ursaring. We will take them out with a close combat if they choose not to shield, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Close combat does take them out, so at least a satisfying KO, but they can just wing attack, farm us down, and we do lose that game. So into next battle, another dragon in the lead. So once again, I would like to see us stay in for a little bit longer, but instead at least we do swap out straight away. So this will allow us to outpace this Gudra to a Swift, and Swift does some decent damage there. Not huge damage by any means, but at least it chips them. It puts them into range where we can comfortably farm them down. The opponent comes in with a Quagsire. They go straight for the Alcatel there, outpacing us to that charge move. We can come in with the Shadow Salamence, and they're just going straight for another Alcatel. So I would definitely let this move go through. We're actually going to shield here, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I think the play is to commit to a full farm down, so we kind of needed to shield one Alcatel anyways, as Alcatel does nearly half our health there. But once again, we had the charge move loaded, but we choose not to throw. Big mistake here. We once again just use an unnecessary shield, and basically anything in the back can beat us here. They've got a Typhlosion with 2 shields. We don't bother throwing as we realize it is game over. Blast Burn takes out our Typhlosion. We're going for the Draco Meteor just for the sake of it, but they're obviously going to shield, and they're able to incinerate farmers down to take that game. So they definitely should have just thrown that fly straight away up against that Gudra. But into next battle, the opponent's going to say swap into a Carbink, and I just don't understand this at all. Why are we coming in with Typhlosion? Look, I'll be honest, Ursaring is not going to maintain alignment anyways. It's not going to be beating a Carbink, but this is just setting ourselves up for failure. We're going to go at least farm up to a potential Solar Beam, which I do like. But once again, not realizing that we're not going to make it to back-to-back Blast Burns there, and instead should have just settled for 2 Thunder Punches. And here, we're not going to shield the Ursaring. I guess probably just giving up at this point, but we kind of needed, if we wanted to maintain or at least stay in this game here, we needed to shield that up. But yeah, at this point, there's nothing we can do, so we're just going to surrender the game. But into the next battle, Salamence up against a Gallade. So this is a matchup that we do not need to swap out of. They've only got resisted charge moves, and yes, close combat probably would still take us out there, but a very comfortable matchup where we could probably just shield once and fully Dragon Tail farm them down. But instead, we just basically sacrifice the Ursaring for no reason whatsoever. Gonna shield up a Night Slash here. We can get the farm down, and the opponent's gonna come in with a Quagsire. So going straight for that fly. And if the opponent does not respect the damage here, this honestly would put us in a great position. But unfortunately, we're not in a good position here, but this is just going to be another Alcatel, this time from a non-Shadow Quagsire, so that does not KO. We can go for another Fly here. Fly is going to grab that final shield. At this point, we're staying in, and we actually force the opponent to throw their energy, which is very good for us. They could have just committed to the Mudshot farm down, but the opponent ends up panicking, and as well, they don't go for an Alcatel there, which I don't really understand, but that allows us to get off a Thunder Punch, taking out the Quagsire, and at this point, we've still got a shield in play, so the opponent needs to farm 2 back-to-back charge moves. They don't get there in time, so Thunder Punch takes out the Gallade, and we're able to take that game. We're going into the next battle, Shadow Salamence into a Girafarig. So, fairly neutral lead here. For some reason, we're swapping into Ursaring, which I don't agree with at all, unless maybe we thought this was a pure Psychic-type Pokemon, but because they are part normal, this is a very dominant matchup for Girafarig, as they can just go for a Psychic Fangs, fully fast move, farm us down, use 1 shield, and they also come out with nearly another Psychic Fangs loaded, so that was a very unnecessary play there, and it puts us at a huge disadvantage already. We're also going to no-shield the glassiest Pokemon on this team, putting it all on the Shadow Typhlosion to sweep, and the opponent is actually going to come in with a Shadow Galvantula. Personally, I would have thrown there to make sure we get off a charge move before they can debuff us, but they actually end up going for Discharge anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but they've got a Skeledirge in the back, so unfortunately, it doesn't really matter what we throw, Thunder Punch or Blast Burn, there's still not quite going to be enough damage to take them out here, and Blast Burn doesn't get the KO, they can fully incinerate, farm us down, and we end up losing that game. But again, another matchup where we just didn't need to swap out of that lead there, and it ends up basically putting us at such a huge disadvantage that even with Typhlosion having a pretty good matchup up against that Galvantula, with a shield as well, we just end up losing. But once again, opponent comes in with a bulky Pokemon. We full send the Draco Meteor. Remember, Salamence did actually gain access to Fly this season. You are allowed to use it if you want to. It would be very helpful, and it's not like other Pokemon where baiting is going to be very costly. Fly is still going to do a ton of damage from a Shadow Salamence, so definitely some unnecessary nukes here. But we're going to come in with the Salamence, committing to the farm down, but we don't quite get there in time. The opponent does throw their energy though, which is kind of good news for us. We can come in with Typhlosion, get a slight energy advantage. They come back in with the Annihilate, and at this point we probably just have to no shield here. We're going to hope that they've got something very weak to fire in the back, and it's a Charger Bug, but it doesn't really matter. Thunder Punch will grab the final shield. They can outpace us to the next charge move, and from this range which, unless they go for an Exeter, Discharge will be taking us out, and we do lose that game. But going into possibly the final battle of this video, we lead into a Galarian Stunfisk, so not a great lead. Gonna say swap into our Shadow Ursaring, and personally I would have thrown before they get off an Earthquake here. We are going to shield, and it's just a Rock Slide bait there. If we threw straight away, then we could have possibly grabbed a shield there, and also it was an opportunity to bait with the Swift as well. With this one, we've debuffed our defense, so even a Rock Slide would very comfortably KO, and we're also going to double shield. I don't agree with that. That basically means it's going to be impossible for us to win this game if the opponent does also double shield here, because now, well, as well as making a very nice catch onto their Altaria, their Stunfisk can just very easily sweep our team here, because of course Salamence would get basically one shot by a Rock Slide, and the same can be said for Typhlosion. And also, we don't even get the farm down up against the Altaria. We come in with Typhlosion, but this Galarian Stunfisk is probably at an Earthquake already here, so Earthquake will be taken at the Typhlosion, and we end up losing that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.